We were watching a Cyndi Lauper video. The Lust was drunk, telling me about how her 4-year-old grandson thought she was sexy. I guess the little fucker had pretty good taste. At 49, she was a very sexy woman. When she made the effort, bloody attractive too. Much more so than most of the chicks less than half her age. And I bet a much better fuck too. Still, the little guy didn't need to know too much about that. He'd learn all that shit much later on, and how much shit it could sometimes be too. Well, the Lust liked Cindy's voice and said she could sing too. You know, I've got a pretty good voice, she told me. I got offered a job because of it. I didn't deny it. Why don't you write a song for me, she said. I thought, why not? I've written 1 million songs that nobody's cared a shit about. What's the harm in writing one more? Maybe I'll write it in a little while, I thought. Or maybe I'll just get drunk too. When Lizzie was drunk, she told me she wanted a gun. I told her I'd buy her one for Christmas. She was very happy, laughed and smiled a lot, and posed while I took a few photos. She said, "You really gonna buy me a gun? That's what I've always wanted." Then she said she wanted something to practice on, so I said I'd buy a t-shirt with a target on, and she could practice on me. She said she didn't want that. She didn't want to kill anyone, because she would end up in the nick. But she needed a gun, a little one she could keep in her bag. She needed it because she was thinking of leaving the country soon. She was laughing, drunk and happy. She held out her hand to me. I squeezed it like a trigger. Lizzie is upstairs in bed at peace, the devil drink gone from her mind. I sit alone watching TV. I look at her photos on the wall and know I love her. Soon I will go up to bed, climb in beside her, put my arm around her, cuddle her, and feel her love too. Her father was an alcoholic Scotsman who died when she was 9. Her stepfather a pervert who spied on courting couples on the local heath and stole her knickers. Now, possibly in remembrance of the father she loved, she's an alcoholic. And maybe as a sign of hatred for her stepfather, she wears no knickers, especially in the summer. All is peace and calm. Lizzie is in the kitchen cooking a meal for her son and daughter, who may or may not turn up, and I am writing letters. We haven't had a row since yesterday. Things are pretty good and getting better. She has just brought me something to eat and told me I've got sexy eyes. If she tries out her new sex toy later, things may get even better still, though probably not so calm. She had just come off a 5-day bender and was feeling pretty rough, but she got no sympathy from me, although I did go round the house and feed her cat because she felt too bad to leave the flat. I was feeling pretty good. I felt I was finally getting through to her, that I was right in telling her to cut down on the booze. For fuck's sake, we'd already lost 16 years, and now I got her back, I certainly didn't want her killing herself. We agreed to swap the strong cider for a milder brew, and she would stop drinking during the day. When I got back from feeding the cat, I found her in the kitchen preparing some food, and later she ate her first proper meal for nearly a week. She told me that tomorrow she will wash her hair for the first time in the same period and will get out her makeup again. After we had eaten, we watched a video. It was the first time she had stayed up all day in 5 days. We chatted like we had a few weeks before when we had first got back together, and without the strong cider, her abusive manner had disappeared. In bed that night, she came 3 times, and I knew she was returning to the woman I love. We both knew a step backwards could ruin the best thing either of us had ever had. Lizzie's house is so cold that in summer it is warmer outside than in. Now, with autumn upon us and no heating, the warmest place is in the bath. When winter arrives, the only warm place will be inside her. It could be a long, hot winter. On the way from Lizzie's house to my flat today, we first of all passed the ex who had been pestering her. He was on his way into the off-licence, possibly in preparation for another session of threats and abuse. Then as we neared the flat, we saw the ex before that, riding his bicycle on the pavement, and I commented that they all seemed to be coming out of the wardrobe today. If only the four-eyed cunt from over the road had returned the lawnmower he borrowed as an excuse to see her, we could have had a complete horror movie. Triple X. Last night we were watching this film on TV, and Lizzie exclaimed that the male character was very rough during the sex scenes. I replied that he was a real man. A few days earlier, she had told me she had always thought I was gay because I was gentle. She had just read some of my poems while I was out, but hadn't read them properly, which was an even bigger crime than calling me gay. How, I argued, after all the sex we had had in so many different ways and so frequently, could she possibly think I was gay? Mind you, I had never held her legs in the air and banged her head on the floor while I fucked her, as the guy in the film had done to his woman. Maybe I'll have to try it tomorrow. It might knock some sense into her. Jealous of one of my old poems, she wrote about an affair from her past with a bespectacled tattoo guy who lives across the road from her and who, for some strange reason, she refers to as monocles. After doing her garden for her one day, she gave him cider, possibly for strength or Dutch courage, and he lifted her onto the kitchen table, pulled down her knickers and fucked her. This was designed to make me jealous too, but the only thing that annoyed me was that when I tried it I couldn't reach. But then maybe he was wearing high heels or has a longer cock than me.